to my channel. I'm back to another video. So I don't even know how to film this. I don't even know how to film this, and I'm gonna cry. So if you don't follow me on all of my social media, then you won't know, but I lost my baby. Oh, I'm gonna try not to cry because I can't talk about this whole situation without crying. Yeah, so as you know, I was pregnant with baby number 2. The last video I filmed, I think I was like 14, 15 weeks. I think anyway. Can't really remember. But we have sadly lost our baby. He was born on the 20th of March at 1:45 in the afternoon, and he was born sleeping. I guess I'll just kind of give a story time. Not really story time, kind of explain everything, because I haven't explained it on social media. I've just posted about him and stuff, but I haven't gone into detail because I can't go into detail about crying. So let's move on. There's probably going to be tears in this video. Yeah, so let's just do a little backstory. Basically, I found out I was pregnant on the 21st of December 2021. I had a really good pregnancy. I felt really sick, but I wasn't sick at all. I was so happy, like so happy. Before I got pregnant, I was in a really, really dark place. Like, I was suffering badly by postnatal depression. I was in a dark place. I got pregnant with George, that's what we called him. I got pregnant with George, and it's like that all just disappeared, and I was so happy. It's like, how I explain it is like my body was dark. He inside of me was like a light, and he lit me up. And then now he's been taken, it's like I'm dark again. That's how I sort of explain it. So everything was absolutely fine. We had a 6-week scan, perfect little bean in there. 12-week scan, perfect. I started feeling him move at 12, like just after 12 weeks. Everything was going perfect, like literally perfect, absolutely perfect. A lot of people asked me if I had any signs of this happening. I had absolutely no signs at all. Nothing. Literally nothing. Not even a gut instinct. Absolutely nothing. So basically, I'm just going to... I don't want this video to be too long because I don't really know what to say. I'm just going to kind of just explain what happened. I keep looking, there's a mirror behind me. It's probably so annoying, we keep looking. So basically, on the 17th of March, I had my gender scan. So I went for my gender scan, and this is the worst day of my life. So I was laying on that bed. Who in the room with me was Lewis, my little sister, my mum and Grayson. I was laying there waiting to be scanned, and she started scanning me, and I could see him on the screen, and I just knew something wasn't right. If you've had kids, you know that you automatically look for that little heartbeat as soon as they start scanning you. There was nothing, there was no heartbeat. He wasn't moving. Sonographer was being really quiet, and I just knew, but I didn't say anything. because I didn't want to say something and he was actually fine. She kept looking at his brain and stuff, and she just said, "I'm so sorry, but it's not good news," and she told me that she couldn't find her heartbeat and stuff. And I want to cry. I can't even explain how that felt. I really don't want to cry, but I'm gonna cry. Yeah, I'm gonna post a video of me on the internet crying. Great. But I can't even explain how that felt. And I was just started screaming and crying, saying like, no, this can't be happening. Like, I've never felt like that in my life. Like, I was screaming and crying in this room. My mum just picked Grayson up and just ran out with him, because obviously he was in that room, and I just remember Lewis just like holding me, cuddling me, and he was crying, and my little sister was crying, and I was crying, and I just can't even explain the pain. They also got my dates wrong, so at the scan I should have been 16 plus 1, but he was measuring like almost 19 weeks, so they got my dates wrong. That was actually like 2 weeks more than I was. They also didn't tell me the gender at my gender scan either, and it's like I just paid like £60-70 to be told my baby wasn't alive. They just give me a picture and off I went. That car ride home was just horrible. Like, I was just crying my eyes out, and I was like, why me? Like, why has this happened to me? I had no signs of this happening. Like, you don't hear of people losing their babies. Like, you think after 12 weeks you're safe, but you're really not. Like, you're really not safe after 12 weeks when you think you are. That whole day now is just kind of a big blur to me. Like, I just can't really remember the day. I just remember I was at my mum's, and I just remember I was just laying in bed just crying, and then feeling numb, and then crying, and then I know I didn't eat or drink a thing that day. I felt physically sick to my stomach. I couldn't even look in the mirror, because just seeing my bump and knowing that he was still inside of me but he wasn't alive, it was really hard. I feel like I shouldn't make this video yet because I'm just gonna cry, but I feel like I'm never not gonna cry when talking about it. And I feel like I need to make this video because I just feel like I need to make it. So I'm just gonna carry on. So my mum rang the hospital for me, because obviously the hospital didn't know yet, because I went to a private scan, and I could not ring them. So my mum rang them for me, and they told me to go up the next day. So the next day we went up to hospital and sitting there, and they then scanned me again, because obviously I didn't have an NHS scan, so the NHS now have to confirm it. So she started scanning me, and then she said, like, we do agree. And she got someone else in for, well, it was a third opinion, and then they said that, yeah. I asked them if they could tell me his gender, because obviously we didn't know yet. And then she told me that he was a little boy. They then sat me in like a bereavement room, and I had all these different doctors and midwives coming to me. I had to have like blood tests and stuff, but because I was so dehydrated, they literally couldn't get blood out of me, and I feel like I was poked so many times until they finally got blood. I was sitting in there for just hours and hours and hours, like all day. I went into hospital at 11. I didn't leave till like 5. I was just, so horrible, so horrible. I then had doctors and midwives come in and tell me what was going to happen next, and they told me that on the Sunday I was going to have to go into hospital and obviously go on maternity wards, and I was going to have to be basically induced. I was so scared. Like, I've never been so scared in my life. I don't know why I was so scared. I've given birth before, I've been through labour before, and I think that's why I was so scared, because I knew I was going to have to deal with the pain of labour and the mental pain of losing my baby. So they explained what was going to happen, and they gave me a tablet because to basically stop my brain from producing the hormones, because my body didn't know what was happening. Yeah, so they gave me the tablet, and then I went home, and this was the Friday, so I had one more day at home. The whole Saturday I was at home, well, at my mum's, and then I went home. Bear in mind, like, I'd just non-stop crying this whole time. I went home just to get some stuff to take to the hospital. No one should have to pack their hospital bag at like 19 weeks pregnant. And I just, as soon as I walked in that door, I just broke down. And I was on my own, and I was just shouting, like, why did this have to happen to me? Like, why him? So the next day, me and Lewis went into hospital, and I was put in this little room, basically next to labour ward, but it was more like near, it wasn't in the labour ward, but it was like on the, basically in my hospital there's like a corridor, and you've got the labour ward this side, and then you've got midwives' offices, and then you've got like the maternity wards and then the postnatal wards and stuff, and my room was on that bit. It was just a singular room, and it was a nice room. It wasn't like a hospital room. It had like a double bed in it, and then it had like a little living room area, a fridge, a coffee machine, and Grayson just come in. Yeah, and it had a cold cot next to the bed as well. So when I went in, they gave me a tablet like in my cervix, basically like they do when you're induced, but it was a stronger one. And she gave me that, and then they had to do like blood tests and stuff, and again they just couldn't get blood out of me. I was just poked and prodded so many times. So many times. They tried, like, I'm not joking, I had like 8 in this arm, I had some in my hand. They couldn't even get nothing out of that one. And it was just horrible. So I was having regular obs as well, like they do when you're in normal labour and being induced. Like, you get like your blood pressure and your temperature and your pulse and all that. So I was doing that regularly, and then about an hour after I had the first tablet, I still wasn't in labour yet, so they gave me the second one, which is an oral one, and then I started contracting after 10 minutes of having that. At first they were like every 5 to 10 minutes apart for about half an hour. the midwife come in, she said like, are you having any contractions yet? And I told her they're probably about every 10 minutes, every 5-10 minutes. So she set up the gas and air just in case they got worse by the time when she was gone. So she set them up, and literally as soon as she left that room, my contractions come thick and fast. Like, it felt exactly the same as when I was in labour with Grayson. Exactly the same, like identical pain, identical place where the pain was. And with Grayson, the same thing happened, that my body started like, it's like I had one continual contraction that didn't go, and that happened again this time with George, and I had to start using the gas and air. So I probably started properly contracting around 11:30, 11:15, 11:30. They got really, really intense. I was just using the gas and air. With Grayson, I had an epidural at 2 centimetres. This time I only had gas and air. So I was using the gas and air. It was just, if Lewis wasn't, I could not have done it without Lewis. He was just sitting next to me, and it really hurt. Of course it hurt, but it really hurt. So about a little while later, I was laying there, and no midwives had come in at all. Oh no, they come in once during my obs, and I was just on gas and air the whole time because the contractions were so bad. And literally a little while later, I was laying there off my nut on gas and air, and I said to Lewis like, I need to push. And Lewis was like, no, like there was obviously no midwife in the room. I was like, I need to push. Yeah, so I was like, I need to push. He pushed the emergency buzzer, but if you ever had a baby, you know that urge to push, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. So I just pushed, and was probably only 1 or 2 pushes, and he came out. I was laying flat and I couldn't see, and I was saying like, Lewis, like, is that him? And Lewis didn't know, because he actually came out in his sack, which is obviously so rare as well for that to happen, and like ironic that means good luck, right? But eventually the midwife come in, and I opened the door, and I was like, oh my gosh, baby's here. I was like, I can't believe how quick that was. Like, that was so quick. I was literally in labour. He was born at 1:45. Yeah, 1:45, and I went into labour at 11:30. So what's that, like 12:01? Literally like 2 hours. And they come over, and I made Lewis take loads of pictures of him in his bag, because I just thought it was amazing, and I wanted to see what it looked like. It was the most beautiful thing, like amazing. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So they popped his bag, and they wrapped him up in a towel, and they give him to me, and I could just see his tiny little face. He just had the most perfect little face. He had like the cutest little nose and the biggest pout, and he looked so much like Grayson already. Like, it's crazy that he really did look like Grayson already. He had the most tiniest little hands. They were so perfect. His tiny little feet. It's like he was so perfect but so tiny. He was so tiny. He was like just shy of 20 centimetres long. So he was tiny, but he was just so perfect. Like, I can't even explain how perfect he was. He looked, one of the first things I said as well is that he looked really peaceful. He looked so peaceful. He really did. His eyes were shut and he just looked so peaceful. I'm glad he did. He was so perfect, but no one should ever have to go through that. No one should have to see their baby that small. Physically, there was nothing wrong with him. There wasn't like an obvious reason to why it could have happened, like, you know, like, it wasn't anything like spina bifida or anything like that. So I was just holding him, my chest with in his towel, and obviously the midwives, obviously I've got to give birth to the placenta still, and my body done exactly the same as it did with Grayson. When the baby comes out, my body just stops contracting. No more contractions. It's like, no, sorry, no more. So the placenta was just in there, and she was like, are you not getting any more contractions? I was like, absolutely nothing. So she just kept sort of tugging, which was not a nice feeling at all. I eventually just pushed it out. Placenta come out, and then it's so weird. It's like after the placenta comes out, then my body will contract again to obviously contract the stomach back to stop bleeding. It's strange. It's so strange. So placenta, they cut his cord and stuff, and then midwives left the room, and they just left me and Lewis with George, and we were just both holding him and just both like crying and stuff, obviously. And he was just so perfect, like so perfect. Midwife come in after like a little while, maybe like 20 minutes, and she said like, we need to take him just to weigh him and to like do his feet prints and hand prints and stuff for us. So they took him and they done his footprints. They couldn't really do hand prints because his hands were so tiny, they weren't pressed into the ink properly, but they done his feet prints, which I'll put on the screen. And then they brought him back in like this like beautiful little crocheted bed, with a little blanket and a little blue hat on, and like, he did look really comfortable, like just laying there. So after that, me and Lewis stayed in the hospital overnight, and he was with us the whole time. He was in the cold cot next to the bed. I felt after that, initially, all the crying I'd done after having him, I felt just so numb, like so numb. I don't think I really cried much else that day after the initial crying after having him. I just was just numb, and I couldn't quite believe what had just happened. I just kept staring at him and picking him up, and I just couldn't quite believe it. The midwives were so lovely as well. Honestly, couldn't have asked for better midwives to have looked after me. So that I actually did sleep that night, which I'm surprised of, but I think I was just so worn out. And I know Lewis he didn't really sleep. I remember waking up in the night and just seeing him with George and stuff. So the next day, about, I don't really know what time it was, but they said to me like, you can stay in another night or you can go home. As much as I would have loved to stay with him, I needed to go home. I physically couldn't cope and I needed to see Grayson, and I just thought that it'd be probably better if we just went home today rather than another day. And I knew that he needed to go to the morgue as well, because basically with babies that little, they change quite quickly, and I didn't want to see him change because obviously the cold cot's not as cold as when they're in the morgue. So I decided that we needed to go home. It was about 4:30, 5 o'clock. It's like I kind of push it all back, and then talking about it just like brings back the memories, even though it was only like 2 weeks ago. So about 5:30, 5 o'clock, the midwife come in, and she said that the porter was here to take him down to the morgue. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing to post this. So she said that you need to say your goodbyes, which I really didn't want to cry. So she told me that we had to say goodbye to him. She left the room so that we could like say our goodbyes, and that was just, this is so embarrassing. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. No one should have to say goodbye to their baby the day after they meet them. I'm really trying so hard to hold these tears back. So hard. So saying goodbye was just the hardest bit of it all. It was like the realisation that I've tried so hard not to cry. It was like a realisation that I'm never going to see him again, and that I was never going to get to hold him again. So me and Lewis said goodbye to him. This video is going to be really like cut and jumpy because of how much I'm crying, and I'm not going to put that all in. So midwife come back in the room. Midwife come back in the room, and she said like, it's time. Eventually I just had to give in, and I had to just hand him over to her. This is so hard. Watching her walk out of that room holding him, just horrible. Really try not to cry, and it's really not working. I'm just bawling my eyes out on the internet. It's just so embarrassing, so embarrassing. People are just gonna laugh at this, but you know, I don't even care. I can't talk about it without crying. So they said to me that I could walk down to the morgue with him, but I couldn't take him there. I just couldn't. So after they took him, we were just in the room getting ready to leave, and obviously just trying to get myself together, which it still hasn't happened. So we eventually left the hospital, and just no one should have to go into hospital pregnant and leave with no baby and not pregnant. Nobody should have to do that. No one. I honestly would not wish this on my worst enemy. Not in 1,000 years. So we come home, and since then things just haven't been the same. I know that the pain will get easier. I know it will, but right now it just isn't, and I probably should make this video when the pain has got easier. But I feel like I can't just go on, you know, YouTube's a big part of my life, like I do it a lot. I can't just go on posting and not explain everything, so I feel like I have to just sit down and explain it. But I have good days and I have bad days at the minute. I found out he had passed nearly 3 weeks ago, so it's currently Tuesday, and I found out on the Thursday, so it's been nearly 3 weeks. I have good days and bad days. Some days I don't even get out of bed and I can't stop thinking about him, and I just long for him so much. And some days, you know, I'm okay. I still cry. I still do stop thinking about him, but I get up and, you know, I get dressed and I look after Grayson, and yeah, I've only just come home. I have not been home since the day before my gender scan. I literally come home yesterday after like near enough 3 weeks at my mum's, and it doesn't feel right. I moved in here thinking I was going to have 2 babies, and you know, this is where he was supposed to live, and now we can't bring him home in person. I walked in and I just had my scan pictures all over my kitchen, and I had like letters from the midwives on the side. It was just how I left it, obviously. And I broke down. I just broke down crying because it was so hard. I don't stop thinking about him. I do not stop thinking about him, and I don't think I ever will. He will forever be my baby and be my son, and I know that he's obviously watching down on us and watching down on Grayson, but everyone telling you that doesn't make it any easier. As it stands, we don't know why this happened. We don't have a reason. We might never know, because I said no to the post-mortem because I don't want them having to tamper with his body, and I didn't want that. He's a pure little baby, leave him like that. So we might never know. We're getting him cremated. We're not having a funeral because he was born before like 24 weeks. It's not legal to have a funeral. We can have one, but I've just decided that I mentally couldn't cope with having a funeral for him. As much as it pains me that I'm not, I just can't. And I said my goodbyes, and I can't go through that again. We still haven't heard when we're getting his ashes back, and again it's been over 2 weeks and we still haven't heard back, which is really annoying me because I just want to bring him home now. And that is basically my story to what's happened. I can't even explain how I feel. I feel just empty, so empty, and not just physically empty. I feel emotionally empty. Like, I was supposed to have my baby this year, and I've had him this year, but you know what I mean. Now, obviously, it's just so hard, and seeing people with babies and pregnant people that are having healthy pregnancies, it's just so hard. It's like the jealousy. It's not even jealousy. It's just like, why do you? It sounds so horrible, but it's like, why does everyone get to have their healthy babies, and why does mine have to die? Like, it sounds so horrible, but that's just how I feel. It's just horrible, so horrible, because he was so wanted, but I'm gonna cut this video up now because I just can't talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. If I've missed anything out, then deal with it. But yeah, that is my story, and that is what's happened. I just thought I should make a video to clear everything up. But if anyone has been through this and you've lost your baby like at a later stage of pregnancy, you've had to give birth and stuff and go through this grief, like, feel free to message me. I know I'm not through it yet and I won't be for a long time, but you know, I'm here to anyone to talk to. Yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say.